Well, Virgo, you have a mixed bag of planetary transits this month, the month of April 2018. I'm Dadhichi from astrology.com.au. The fifth house is particularly important in terms of not only your love affairs and relationship with children, but it really is, as I've mentioned on many occasions, the inner child and the creative component of yourself, your horoscope. And with Mars and Saturn in a very, very close conjunction right now, that can be, I guess, the case of the classic writer's block or the creative block, that you can't quite get the energy flowing. And that could be, I don't want to separate these two things for you. The relationship side of things could be what's causing that, overlaying your emotional issues on the work or the fun that you want to have. In other words, you're not quite connected to what's happening in the moment, is itself the cause of that block. So I guess the moral of that story is to just break through and try, at least for the time being, to forget about whatever problems you have. And that's also the case because your ruling planet, Mercury, is retrograde in the 8th house of sexuality and shared resources, very near to the Sun, ruling the 12th house of secrets. So there's a lot of stuff going here underneath the bonnet, if I could put it that way. So what we see is this superficial or surface level of just feeling blocked and not being able to, sort of give of your emotions or your feelings. I think has a lot to do with what's happening in this undercurrent of relationships, not being able to talk about how you feel, all tied in with this block. But I think the creative block, if you're into a hobby or some musical or artistic pursuit and you find that it's just not flowing, then I think you look no further than the relationship component of your life. Fortunately, this Mars and Saturn aspect is passing. It perfects itself on the 3rd of April. Mars is also at the right angle to the Sun, so that can make for a somewhat militant situation. So you have to be careful there. And then later in the month, on the 26th, Mars actually goes into that conjunction with Pluto. So you need to resolve a lot of this stuff now. Fortunately, your ruling planet is in its retrograde motion. You're able to go back over your thoughts, over the communications, the correspondence. Not a bad idea to read things twice before you go into battle, because it's quite likely under this aspect, even though the retrogression of Mercury for you is excellent, it actually empowers you, it's still endowed with its natural propensity to cause confusion, miscommunication, and to have to basically revise everything over again. So tread slowly, tread carefully, preferably say little, if anything, until after the 15th, when that planet moves into its forward motion. And it's interesting, some of these problems you're having with your partner may just have something to do with the financial elements of your life. The just passing full moon that starts the month is in your 2nd house with the retrograde Mercury and Sun and Uranus in your 8th house of shared resources. Money, 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 money. The new moon, which takes place on the 16th, a day after the direct movement again of Mercury, takes place in that 8th house. So you're not going to escape this financial undercurrent of issues that are going on, which is just bothering you considerably. And you need to try not too hard to get embroiled in anything up until the 15th or so. We even say after a planet goes direct, it's best to give it a little bit of time, maybe a few days after that. Sometimes I say it could even take a week or two till, the connection that you have with the person, the understanding you need is forthcoming when that planet picks up steam again. Jupiter is also retrograde in your 3rd house of communication, so that doesn't help either, which is why I'm saying just go slowly. Don't feel as if you have to solve all these problems in the first couple of weeks of the month. Venus, very friendly planet for you, your finance planet in the 9th house. It travels through this 9th house of luck, fortune, higher education, long distance journeys, legal matters, spiritual principles. All of these things are covered by Venus in this specific area. But I think because of the weight of aspects and planetary positions affecting your finances and your money, that this planet as well, Venus ruling your finances in the 9th house of luck and fortune, shows that towards the end of the month things will pick up, and whatever financial issues you had, whatever money you're waiting on, whatever plans you'd made, these two can come to fruition. Straight after that, on the 25th, Venus moves to your 10th house, the professional area of your horoscope. That's excellent. This brings with it two opportunities for you, I think, this month, Virgo, with it being in the sign of Gemini. You may have one line of work. There's an option there for some of you anyhow to maybe look at supplementing your income. And also Venus in the sign of Gemini gives you a great love of intellectual pursuits, learning more about your work, learning more about your skill sets, improving that. And that's also shown by the transit of Venus in your 9th house, which is the higher educational sphere. So this is a time of broadening your horizons, expanding and deepening your knowledge of the subject that you have. And I think at that point, a bit later in the month, after the 25th, things start to do much, much better. Venus, in its culmination there, we say it's moving into the midheaven area, brings with it all of the social and loving aspects that you probably would have hoped for earlier in the month. But better late than never, I say. A couple of other things here. Because Venus is your ruling planet, there are some hard aspects on the 4th. Again, on the 5th, that's the square to Mars and Saturn. That can make you argumentative, and then directly followed by shutdown mode. So it's best to be on an even keel rather than having these extreme highs and lows. The other tough one, because it's retrograde, then goes back. It has to repeat that aspect to Saturn. That's that cooling off, aloof sort of element around the 26th. But then, you know, you've got some nice stuff happening culturally there, socially, around the 28th, with the trine aspect to the North Node, which is in your 12th house. So there's connections with foreigners, unusual spiritual subjects, and you know, I call them fringe dwellers, people that aren't your normal cup of tea. So a nice end of the month as well, I'd say. Take a look at astrology.com.au for more on your month in April. And if you'd like, why not take a look at the yearly readings that we have as well. And you can put all of this in some sort of logical framework for the coming 12 months. See you next month, I hope. Take care now. Bye-bye.